Alright, so this video is going to be about finding the vertex, and I have two different examples that we're going to use in order to find the vertex. It's going to be one example in standard form and one example in vertex form because they're both ways that you can see these problems. If you have some kind of standardized test or probably in your class with quizzes, you'll see them both in standard and vertex form. First thing I want to go over before we start getting into examples is what is the vertex? The vertex is this point here on these quadratic graphs where when you're graphing it, it's the point where it stops going one direction and starts going another direction. So if you look, this line is going up, 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 up. Right here, it stops going up and it starts going down. So it's kind of like, oops, it's kind of like, it's like when you throw a ball in the air. At some point, that ball is going to stop going up and it's going to start going down. That's like what the vertex is. It's when that graph is going to change directions. So let's look at our first example here. And it's going to be standard form. So standard form, as you can see, what I did here is I put the equation, the formula kind of what standard form is. So we have y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. And what I did is I put all of our numbers, our coefficients and constant, I put those in color. And I underlined in that same color the number that corresponds with that variable. So if I'm looking for my a, you can see that a is the coefficient in front of the x squared. The b is that 4, the coefficient in front of the x, and the 3 is the constant, that's the c of our standard form equation. Now, how do we find the vertex? That's the question, right? That's what the whole video is about. The equation to find the vertex, at least to start finding it, is x equals negative b over 2a. That's the equation. Now, something to think about is this equation only solves for x. A vertex is a point on a graph, meaning there's an x and a y. So we'll get to that in a second. We're solving for x here. So in order to find the x value of our vertex, let's make this a different color. X equals, my equation says negative b. So before I do anything, before I put what the b value is, I want to put that negative sign, because that negative sign is part of the equation. Okay, it says here negative b, so before we put b, we have that negative sign. So remember that negative sign is completely unrelated to what our b value is. So our b value is a positive 4. This positive sign goes with that 4. It's a positive 4. Okay, look, red, red, red. You can kind of follow along to see where it's coming from. That 2 in the denominator, that 2 is part of the equation, so I'm going to just put it down. It doesn't matter what anything else is. That 2 is part of the equation, so I'm just putting it down. And then my a, because it's 2 times a in the denominator, my a is 2, and it's a positive 2. Okay. Hopefully you guys are able to see, okay, well, why is this 4 here? Well, if you look at the red letter and the red number, the B is 4, so I kept it red. The orange is 2, the A, so I kept it orange, and then that way you can kind of follow along here. Let's solve for this x value. So, negative 4, there's nothing I have to do with that. Over 2 times 2 is a positive 4. Negative 4 divided by 4, that means x equals negative 1. I now have my x value of my vertex. Now remember, it's only the x value. We still need to solve for the y value. The y value, the way to find that is look at the equation. Y equals all this stuff. Well, y equals, we now have an x value. So what I can do now is I can say, all right, well, y equals 2 times, what's my x? Well, now I know my x is negative 1. Plus 4 times my x. Well, now I know my x is negative 1. then plus 3. And this is exactly what you do for all of your value. Like if you have to find more points on a graph, you plug in those x values and you find out what the y is. You make a table and then those are your points that you would put in. Negative 1 squared is positive 1 times 2 plus 4 times negative 1 is a negative 4 and then a plus 3. 2 times 1 is 2. Minus that 4, because a plus and negative 4 is the same thing as a minus 4, plus 3. My y is going to equal 2 minus 4 is negative 2. Negative 2 plus 3 is 1. That means if I were asked, what is my vertex? Let's make it a color that we haven't used, green. Alright, so my vertex is going to be negative 1, because that's my y, but actually, before, let's keep these colors the same here. The x value is going to be that negative 1, right? And then my y value is going to be from down here is 1. This is our vertex. We just found the vertex standard form. Now it seems a little bit long, difficult. As long as you stay organized, it's not that bad. Vertex form is so much easier. Watch how fast this is. We have vertex form. This is the actual vertex form, like the formula for it. So we have y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. Look at our problem. A. Our a value is just 1. There's nothing there. My a is 1. My h is this 5. Now something to look at. This minus is part of the equation. X minus, x minus. That means my h is actually going to be positive 5. Because it's x minus, nothing changed to that. H is a positive 5. Then we have our k plus k plus k. So that means my k is going to be 4. I'm just going to put my 1 up here too, just so we can see all of my values. Now, here's the cool thing about vertex form. Vertex form. Your vertex is h, comma, k. That means my vertex for this problem right here, vertex for this problem, h is 5. Comma k, my k is 4. It's that easy. There's no math. It's all just looking for your values in your equation. That's all it is. What happens if I have some negatives in here or some signs go a little bit differently? Let's change this problem a little bit. I'm going to make it x plus 5 squared minus 4. And we're going to see what that does to the vertex. My a for this equation here, for this problem that I just gave you, my a is still 1. A is 1. My h is actually negative 5. The reason for that is this is the same as x minus negative 5. Because there's, in your equations, x minus, negative makes it a positive. So that's why the h is a negative 5. And then my k is actually negative 4. The reason for that, if your equation is plus k, this is the same thing as plus a negative 4. Plus negative is the same thing as just a minus. So these are my values for the a, the h, and the k. So my vertex for this example is going to be, vertex is going to be hk. So negative 5. Let's finish with the blue. and then my k is going to be -4. Hopefully this is going to clarify some of the questions you have on finding the vertex. It'll make it easy. Um, and if you put it together with some of the other videos, you should have no problem graphing quadratic functions. We have the video on the x-intercepts. There's the video on the y-intercepts. With the vertex, the x-intercepts, and the y-intercepts, you can very easily make a graph from those points. So enjoy.